Welcome to MasterMind Minutes, the podcast that focuses on the franchise industry. We'll cover topics that are important to franchisees as well as franchisors and share interesting insights that will help you build your business. We have one guest, we ask one question, and we do this in minutes, not hours. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of MasterMind Minutes, the podcast where we share powerful insights from top minds in business, franchising, and leadership, and we do it in minutes, not hours. My name's Gary Occhiogrosso. I'm the founder of Franchise Growth Solutions and the publisher of FranchiseMoneymaker.com. And today, our guest is nothing short of a trailblazer, and we're going to be talking about that. Joining us is Mohaimina Haque. And she is a CEO, a seasoned attorney, and a dedicated educator. Mina is the first woman CEO of Tony Roma's. That's a brand with a 50-year legacy. But that's just one part of her story. She also leads her own law firm in Washington, D.C., and shares her expertise as an adjunct professor at American University Washington College of Law. Mina exemplifies a forward-thinking person with the leadership skills. She was recently named as one of Women We Admire top women leaders for DC for 2025, a recognition that absolutely reflects her dynamic influence across both business and law. And I have some history with Mina. We worked together for a while when she took over Tony Roma. So Mina, I am really excited and happy to have you on this podcast. Before we get into the question, tell us a little bit more about you and sort of the other things you're doing. And then, of course, Tony Roma's, which we want to talk about in more detail.
Gary, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I always enjoy our conversation, and today I get to have this conversation on your podcast. What an amazing honor. Firstly, I am Mina Haque. I'm running Tony Roma's as the global CEO. In addition to that, I'm an attorney by profession. I'm actively practicing law, and I still do that. And I'm an educator. I teach law students. One of my interests is always to turn challenges into opportunities, and through various roles, I find doing that every day.
Well, I will tell you that from having worked together for a while, I know you take up challenges, and that's kind of the question. And then we'll get into that. So as the CEO of Tony Roma's, obviously taking over a legacy brand with 50 years of history, maybe more now, and a worldwide presence. So it's not like you're managing a company that has a small footprint. I mean, Tony Roma's is all over the world. When a new CEO comes on board, and I know there was a transaction, and that's how you got involved, you probably were and still are. You use the word challenges before challenges and opportunities. You're faced with challenges, and I would love to know what those challenges are and what tactics or methodology or mindset you took to the Tony Roma's brand to sort of take this legacy brand and now refresh it, rejuvenate it, relaunch it, and get it back into, the franchise industry. That's really the question for today.
Yeah, I'd be happy to discuss that. So when you run a legendary brand like Tony Roma's with a 53-year-old history, I like to say that Tony Roma's has seen its highs and it has seen its lows. And the best thing about the brand is it's extremely resilient. It has always reemerged stronger than ever before. And one of the biggest testament is the customers' love and loyalty towards the brand. Even now, every event I attend, everywhere I go, I hear about people's memories in Tony Roma's, especially when I attend any type of world events. I was in Switzerland and Davos in the World Economic Forum week earlier this year. And there were so many leaders across very established companies who would come and who would share their memories of Tony Roma's. So I love to see that brand loyalty that we enjoy. And that gives you a belief that this is a brand that's not only here to stay, that's here to flourish with each, passing time. And of course, when you take over a legendary brand, I always think of there are two mindsets you can adopt, and that could be a game changer. One is there are decisions that predates you, right? I have walked in as their CEO about a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, in the summer of 2023. I had many predecessors before me who have taken decisions for the company, which may or may not have been great at the time, but it doesn't mean that those were sustainable decisions. So one of the urge you have as a leader is, oh, it's not me, it was taken before me, it predates me. And then the other mindset is, this is my problem now. I'm going to tackle this. So
Mhm.
I'm in the latter camp. I have usually group meetings where people, because I have brand new team, and they would come and say, "We don't know about this. It predates our time." Of course, it predates our time, but we are here for a reason. We are here as the change maker. So if you adopt that mindset shift that you are the change maker for this legacy brand, you can then, not only troubleshoot of the outcome of the past decision, you can bring in new vision. And that's where I come in. And I like to say I have applied like a startup approach. Whatever decisions have been taken, but we can apply a startup approach and build a company from scratch. And that's what we have been doing. And we're seeing a lot of excitement these days.
And that's terrific. And that kind of, that opens the conversation to people. I remember when I was on the buy side with a family office, we would buy legacy brands. And one of the challenges I was faced with, well, first of all, the first challenge is who do I keep and who do I not keep? And generally we would keep the ops people because they sort of knew the operation. But I'd love for you to speak to a challenge, and it may not have been a challenge for you, but it was certainly a challenge for me, is you bring in some new people, which I would imagine you've done, and now you've got sort of the old family. It's like a blended family. So how have you, in the case of Tony Roma's, how have you been able to manage maybe blending cultures or creating a new culture? What have you taken to that equation of blending people on a team?
One of the assessments that I do is the vision alignment. It could be, people who have worked for years, who have worked longer in the company than I have, or it could be new recruits. But the vision alignment is a test that I put. Do they believe in this vision? Are they going to come back and say, let's do the rinse and repeat approach? We have done this in the past. That's a line I heard a lot of time. This is what we have done in the past. Again, what have been done in the past, I don't want to completely dismiss it as wrong or it had some deficiencies. It might have worked at that time, but we are in a fast evolving world with rapid technological changes. So you need to be very agile. You need to make sure who comes in to this vision alignment.
Yeah,
And
100%. I mean, I would see how that would be a challenge, but a necessary piece. So, is that still a work in progress, or is that sort of something that's kind of happening right now?
It is happening right now. In fact, I have team members right now in my team that I really believe that they're aligned on my vision. They believe in the brand. Like we are all here for the love of Tony Roma's, the brand, and they are embracing AI. I have made enormous changes when it comes to technological advancements. We will be piloting some robot runners in one of our units in North Carolina
I
very soon.
love it.
Yeah. So it's like, I've started to see where the vision has started to turn into like actionable, work product. So that's exactly what I want my team to turn this vision into actionable work products.
Yeah, I know it makes sense. Hence the phrase teamwork makes the dream work. So I get it. I get it. Looking and I want to talk about technology in a minute, but I think just staying on sort of the people and the culture topic, because I think that's where it all starts with people. So, molding and blending the employee base, got it. They're under your direct control. I don't want to say it's easy, but it's certainly simpler than now. On the other side of the ledger, you have a franchise community because you have existing franchisees, some of whom all of whom perhaps have been there before you, have been there for years and years. They're probably most likely to say, oh, well, this is how we've always done it. So my question really is, um, well, I guess there's a couple of questions. How did you, or did you need to? I'm going to assume you did, but I'm going to ask anyway. Did you need to gain their trust? How did you gain their trust? And where is that now? And the reason I'm asking the question is earlier you said there was several predecessors in your seat. So I would imagine that in their minds, human nature, they're like, oh, here comes another one. So how did you kind of gain their trust, and are they on board with the vision?
See, that is an amazing question, especially in the franchising world, because the operational model in a franchising world, it's different. Because while I may be the global CEO of the corporate, but I'm not in charge of the day-to-day of the units that are all across the
Hmm.
world.
Hmm.
As a franchisor, one of our challenges is to make sure this vision that I have, the vision alignment. At first, what I talked about is an internal vision alignment, but how about franchise-wide? Are they embracing it? What type of challenges are we facing? Are there pushback? And they're our most important partners. We are mostly franchisee owned, and there are franchise partners who have been in the system for over 40 years. And of course, they have seen many CEOs come and go, and everyone, perhaps have promised something, but it's about how do you, not over promise and under deliver, right? And franchisees, you have to prove that. You have to prove your concept, you have to prove your vision. So, in terms of what I faced and what I'm going through, I'll be happy to talk about it. Of course, we have communicated our vision through emails, through having Zoom sessions, because we are all over the world. We are across 5 continents. But what I have seen very helpful to build that relationship and gain the trust is when I visit them. There is nothing that could be compared to an in-person visit. While what I like to say, the information velocity have increased as a result of technology, but an in-person visit is still monumental when you sit down with your franchise partners. You're having that face-to-face conversation. That is just amazing. I just had a recent visit with one of my franchise partners. At the end of our conversation, they're expanding. They're going to open more units. And that's how you build trust. And I thought, here I am trying to send emails, trying to show what the company is doing through our achievement, through social media posts. But what an in-person visit can do, it's still monumental.
Yeah. Oh, no, no doubt. I'll go back in my memory 42, 43 years ago. I think you know this. I started my franchising career as a franchisee of Dunkin' Donuts way back when. Actually, we used to make donuts in the shop, which they don't do anymore. But, and of course, this was before internet and email and all of that stuff. But I remember because my shop was about a half a mile from LaGuardia Airport in New York. And I remember my district manager, the person that would kind of come and visit the stores, he told me that the president of the company was coming to a conference in New York. And when he landed in LaGuardia, he wanted to come to my store. Well, I have to tell you, for me, it was I don't know, it was like the king visiting, like it was, and it was a great opportunity for me to have that face-to-face conversation with the person who was sort of really the leadership in charge of the company, creating new things, and I got sort of a firsthand look, and I was energized. So I can tell you that what you just said is not only true, but if a franchisee doesn't feel that, I don't know what's wrong with the franchisee at that point. So staying on that, what have you heard franchisees are expecting? Like you mentioned technology. So, you've updated technology. Have there been updates to menus? Are you dealing with maybe different decor packages? And talk to us a little bit about sort of updating technology, decor, menu, that sort of stuff. Because that's going to keep franchisees interested too, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Firstly, menu. It always comes down to, what are you doing in terms of your menu? We started at a time when, or especially in the 90s, not when we started, especially in the 90s, a booklet of menu was a popular thing. When you would go to legendary brands, you would open
Yes.
and just flip through the pages with very colorful pictures. That just doesn't work anymore. Firstly, consumers are health conscious. Secondly, the food cost is so high, you don't want to pass those costs on to your franchise partners just because you want to offer all these items. So just be cognizant of what works in each market and not impose these type of requirements on your franchise partners. Have a simplified menu, yet have enough data and analytics that you know what consumers enjoy this day. This is where my technology part comes in. I'm collaborating with partners who have those resources, who keep up with the trends, who knows like what works. For example, right now, maple syrup has become very popular. Like, when we were growing up, we associated maple syrup with pancake, right? And now you're seeing all these like maple glazed bacon, and maple is so popular. So just having insights like that, like what is exciting for consumers today? And what we are doing at the moment, we're rolling out 4 LTOs, the limited time offer. Part of the reason is since we are so dispersed all around the world, what may work in the stateside may not work globally. So we are giving our franchise partners that flexibility, and that's something all franchise partners want. They don't want, imposition, or they want to make sure that whatever you're offering them, it is tried and tested and it will work in their market. So we are very much familiar with that, which is why we're offering LTOs. And once they offer those menu items, if it works for their market, perhaps it can become a staple in their permanent menu as well. So our menu development have become much more rigorous, especially on our end in terms of trying and testing things out. Whatever is not working or it's dated and there is not enough demand, we're eliminating that because, again, I want to move away from that booklet of menu approach to a nice single page uniform menu that will be enjoyed by today's customers.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I still have to think though, Tony Roma's, the place for ribs, a place for ribs. The ribs are a mainstay. That's never going away.
No.
And that's what I always remember. That's what I always remember the brand for. But there were a couple of other things that were sort of favorites on the menu, but obviously the ribs. So what about things like, for both on the company side, I guess, and on the franchisee side? What about kind of the technology, but more as it relates to marketing, social media, Instagram, TikTok? Marketing back in the day when I was in the restaurant business per se, it was very different. It was print, it was a whole bunch of things. Today, if you don't have a high digital or a big digital footprint, you're going to kind of get forgotten real fast. So talk to us a little bit about what does the company do to market the brand and get the word out that it's here, it's better than ever. What channels are you using? What's that messaging like?
So, Gary, as you just mentioned about marketing, it is so different now than what it used to be. Back in the days, if you could roll out a TV commercial, that would be great for the brand. That no longer works. People
Right.
don't even watch TV as much. So marketing has actually become more versatile. It's a fun area when you're uplifting a brand, especially an iconic brand like Tony Roma's. I think this is something my team and I are actually enjoying a little bit too. Just getting ourselves into the process, embracing the modern technology, all social media platform, encouraging our franchise partners to do social media marketing, connecting them with influencers. Influencer marketing is extremely important. And I was just reading an article where it says that there are approximately about 2 billion active users on Instagram alone. So when you know there are 2 billion users, that's the market that you want to go to. You want to
Right.
put the brand in front of those 2 billion users. And especially for us, because we are selling a brand that's global. So we're trying to expand both in the United States and globally. So from a franchisee perspective, yes, we want new franchise partners and also for consumers to get excited about these LTOs, about Tony Roma's, and create that bridge for folks who are nostalgic. Earlier in our discussion, I mentioned how whenever I attend these world events, there are leaders who would come to me and they would share about all these memories they have, their first date in Tony Roma's. I can just list so many people who came to me and who just listed and said that, Mina, we have had this wonderful memories in Tony Roma's. So just building that, nostalgia and making sure that we pass that along. Because as Gen Zs and millennials were growing up, Tony Roma started to shrink in its geographical footprint. And now we are trying to like reinvigorate the brand. And the first thing is marketing. Marketing is key for us as a corporate and for our franchise partners. And that's where I'm working on in terms of the vision alignment between us and the franchisees too, so that they
Yeah.
also participate in all these platforms.
Yeah, and I could see that. And it's interesting to me because you, or Tony Roma's rather, has sort of a unique audience, if you will. It has its legacy audience, people like my age who remember it. But then you now have sort of a clean slate, if you will, with people in maybe their 20s or 30s who maybe they never heard of Tony Roma's. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but maybe they never did. And now for them, it's like a whole new thing. So I think that's a really big plus plus in terms of some of the other tech pieces, because when we get involved in restaurant brands, and you know what we do, I mean, when we get involved in restaurant brands, we look at their tech stack to make sure that franchisees have the tools they need, and that could be everything from, is the POS system a modern POS system? Are we doing inventories? Does that POS system do, I don't know, payroll? Is there cost of goods management, mix of business? I mean, you know what I'm talking about here. What upgrades and suggestions, recommendations, requirements have you done sort of on the ops side? And I realize you're not in the day-to-day ops, so you might not have the gory details, but on just globally, if you will, what upgrades in technology have you added to the restaurants that make the system more viable as an operator or for an operator?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of our tech stack, we have upgraded two platforms that are cost effective for us and our franchise partners. And for Tony Roma's, there are some upgrades that we're doing, which is like at the corporate level, but it's benefiting the franchisees because we don't collect any, technical support fees from our franchise partners. So every investment that we are currently doing, we are making sure that we have a robust system where the franchisees can reap the benefit of all these implementation. And I'll give you one example. I'm working with this company called Delight Tree, and they offer this training platform where you can have the training videos, and it also has the AI support where you can like create the training videos and content much faster. Like I can tell you, my training department is very happy with the platform. Just a few weeks ago, we got some requests, so we need these videos, upgraded videos. My director of training was able to respond to that email within 24 hours, which, previously would have been like a lot longer. So there are technologies out there. I think it's making, if you use it efficiently, because technology can do a lot of great things. It's about how user-friendly it is, how receptive your team is. If you use it properly, you can definitely, your service as a franchisor to your franchisee will improve. And one of my core consideration is to be cost effective, both at the corporate level and for the franchisees, because I don't want to have a very new and shiny tool where I have to pass the cost to my franchise partners. So that's something I'm very much aware of, both for the existing franchisees and the new franchisees we'll bring into the system. So when it comes to systems and process, we were talking about POS. POS, it's a bit interesting. Like we have upgraded to like new POS system here in the US, but it's hard to find like a one size fit all for all the locations globally. That's where you need to have like more market specific solution.
Yeah, I could see sort of the challenges with that because you're operating in numerous countries around the globe. But I will say this, I think, it's a spot on approach because it is all about profitability for the franchisees. I mean, they're expecting the franchisor to help them maintain and grow profits. I love the fact that you recognize there's a lot of shiny objects out there, and the other thing is that it's sort of, if it's something that requires information to go into a program, if it's garbage in, garbage out, so you don't want any of that. So I think those are all great transformational pieces that a franchisee can recognize as a forward thinking and moving the brand into the future, because that's obviously where we're all going. We're not going backwards, we're going forwards. So, I mean, this has been great. Any last thought that you want to give the audience on, I guess, the topic question of challenges and tactics when taking over a brand, or maybe even launching a brand, because to a great extent you've sort of relaunched the brand. Any last thoughts you wanna share with us?
Yes, absolutely. So these days, thanks to technology, we do have a lot of solutions. Sometimes there is a misconception where AI or robotics is here to replace employees or talent. I always say that it's not here to replace. These are solutions that will make the work easier. Perhaps, a work product submission will be a lot faster if you use this technology properly. And as I mentioned earlier, there are so many companies out there and everyone's offering the same thing. So be very judicious in whom you select as your vendors. Of course, always keep in mind about the overhead cost, because we are going through an extraordinary time with geopolitical tension, tariffs, supply issues. So build a model that's resilient and that can survive through all these type of extraordinary challenges.
Well, I think that's a great last word, and I'm going to sort of repeat. Build a brand that is resilient to all the challenges. And I think, as you pointed out just prior to that, not only do the challenges exist, but they change. So you have to be aware, awake, and resilient. I love that. We have been speaking with Mina Haque, who is the CEO of Tony Roma's. And Mina, thank you so much for being with us today. If someone wants to reach out and learn more about Tony Roma's or reach you, what's the best way to do that?
Visit our website, tonyromas.com. We do have a franchise website, tonyromasfranchise.com. You'll find a lot of information about our brand. And if you want to follow me, I'm also present on like all major platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Well, that's great. And thank you very, very much for being with us today. I truly appreciate it. I know the audience is going to, find the nuggets of information in there that will be useful. So again, gratitude to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary.